Good afternoon, YouTube, and down in the hole we go. I had to go down to the basement here and get our door for our RV, the ones that we had made. Let's go ahead and talk about the work we're going to be doing.
What have you been up to?
I've been riding on a daydream. Yeah, this disaster down here. Heidi said that this door is done, as is this door is done. You can see all of our RV crap here. Oh my word, it's bad. Try to open this without... Gosh, she'll get so mad if I scratch up the door she just painted. Oh man, I'm trying to do this without scratching doors. There we go. This is old. This thing is really, really old. Well, the house is pretty old. This main section, at least. It was... damn, I keep on scratching stuff. Damn, I banged the door on that now. Should probably have to repaint all this stuff. So, yeah, I need to put these doors on the RV so we can get this thing ready for sale. We'll talk about the weather situation here and some of the stuff I've already done inside. As you can see, I took the Progressive Dynamics, the smart charger with the key fob out for the 30 amp service, and put back the old one, the old 85 or 90 amp, I can't remember what it is. I just cooked on the furnace for the first time. See if it'll kick over. It might need to purge some gas. But yeah, this has come out because my son's going to most likely use this in his van, which is way overkill, but nonetheless, it'll be nice for him to have. And also then, of course, our dual batteries, those AGMs that are down in the basement on maintainers, where they've been all winter, those are not going back in. So today I'll be putting the doors on. I'll be moving this table out of the way, sliding this bench seat out of the way, and securing the wires that did go to the batteries where they were mounted. And I'm going to have to work on putting a battery out here. You see, I got the awning up to air out. Yeah, I'm going to have to work on putting a battery out here. Now, the problem is the battery, of course, here's the tray, and here's a separate tray. This tray has been used up by the switch. This tray is kind of blocked by the generator mount. You can see how high it is. So I don't think I could put a box on there. So I might have to... I don't know what I've got to do. I mean, I could put the board for the generator on here and then put the battery on top of the board. It's not ideal, but... And Heidi has convinced me just to leave this really nice jack on the tongue, the electric jack. I love it. I have a feeling that I'll end up buying another one of these for the Rockwood if that other jack doesn't live up to the expectations of this Husky. As far as these things are concerned, I don't know if I'll be leaving those on or not. And the reason I'm saying that and I'm hesitating is I just don't know if anybody would want that on the RV. I don't know. I have no idea. So going back to the weather, beautiful day out today. It's about 60 degrees. And as you saw just the other day, 2 days ago, all that rain we had that rolled this railroad tie from its spot over here. This is pretty much what it normally looks like after it's flooded. You know, I've got all these leaves, you know, as far as the debris. And as far as the ditch goes, you can see it's pretty much gone back to normal. There's just a real light flow that happens here. So, yeah, I'll move these railroad ties back and continue on with straightening out the RV for sale. Of course, everybody has the same thing. Oh, how much are you going to sell for? We're not sure yet. I need to get on the roof. I'm going to inspect the roof to make sure that there's no leaks or anything up there, which is just the thing that I do every year about this time. I don't expect there to be any problems, any leaks, but it's always good to check. And then we're going to see how much work it's going to take to wash it and shine it and make it look nice. And then at that point, Heidi and I, we'll sit down and add up some dollar amounts and see what we think. And of course, we will do a for sale video that we'll post covering all this. Now, as far as our new RV, a lot of you guys didn't get to see us do any kind of a walkthrough or anything whenever we went up to the dealer. For you guys that don't follow us on Patreon or follow us on Instagram or follow us on Facebook and just watch on YouTube, which is fine. There's a lot of channels, that's all I do is just watch the YouTube videos. We didn't put anything because I made a mistake. I shot some footage that I posted on Patreon for our patrons, and then I also had shot a complete separate video. Yeah, the cold's still hanging on. A complete separate video of us walking around the new RV, inside of it, just giving our first thoughts on things, you know, as far as the way we see them and what we're thinking about. And unfortunately, I deleted those files. It wasn't a thing that, you know, corrupt card or anything like that. I just flat out deleted the files because I already posted one video to Patreon, and when I seen a file that said something about new RV walkthrough, I thought, oh, I already used those files. I don't need that on my hard drive anymore, and I just sent it to the recycle bin. Whoops. Because the recycle bin I delete almost immediately. I always keep my computer free of space, so yeah, that was a mistake. So if you guys want to go check out our Facebook page, the link's down below. And if you click on that, you can go through our post, and you should see just within a couple of posts the pictures that we did post. There was kind of a gloomy day, and the RV was filthy. Man, I have no idea who towed it or what the weather was like when they towed it, but it had to be snowy, muddy, dirty, nasty. They didn't have a trail shield for sure. It's got black all over it. The whole thing was really dirty. I mean, it was dirtier than our old RV is currently. And our old RV, remember, we did a trip to Virginia Beach last November. We drove back, and the weather was real kind of crazy in a couple of spots, and it sat outside storage all winter long. And yet this one is still more clean than the brand new one that was only 3 weeks old at that point. I don't know. That's going to be nice. They're going to clean it up, of course, and wash it up. But let me go ahead and get this thing started and get a little bit of work done, so Heidi, when she comes home, she don't crack the whip. She don't do that, but I always tease her about that. So now I can say the project is finished because the door is actually painted. So the doors are mounted. Again, to reiterate, for people who are just jumping in, this used to be an oven, and we never used the oven. I don't even know what this new RV is going to be like, having an oven, but we didn't like how big the sink was, and the fact we didn't use the oven at all, and we only used 2 burners. We never used 3 burners at the same time. We went to a new countertop and went to a recessed oven, went to a bar style sink, which turned out to be a very, very good choice. And then of course we gained all this storage based on the fact there's not an oven in there. And I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of storage, considering again how small the RV was. So we put our outdoor stove in there, and again, the cooktop and the small sink gave us all this extra counter space that we didn't have before. I mean, this isn't like a full-size kitchen, but very, very good. Okay, so back over here, you guys remember I had you see where Heidi painted. Oh man, I forgot all about that. She's probably going to think, well, it's all covered up, it doesn't make a difference. But this is the battery cutoff switch from my old battery box, and this is where the 2 AGM batteries were mounted. And again, we're keeping the AGM batteries. So at this point, I think I'm going to leave all these pieces of wood in here for the next person, because if they buy a couple lithium ion or a couple of AGM batteries, the AGM batteries are supposed to be vented. However, as discussed in a previous video, I decided not to, and I put them here underneath this bench. It was perfect. It's out of the way. It took weight off the tongue because we was putting the generator out of there. taking the generator and putting it out on the tongue, and this moved back the weight. So all I got to do now is just secure the cable, the positive cable, and the negative cable for the battery, the way it's being routed into the RV. I'm just going to coil it up and put it out of the way, put some wire ties on it, mark them so they know that they are live cables if they decide to use them. And then I'm going to, again, put a battery out on the tongue. But I got to do this first so I can remount the chair then back in its brackets and be done with this area, which that'll be nice. All right, so that's all taken care of underneath there. The bench is back mounted the way it was before we winterized it and took the batteries out. The table's back in place. I forgot about these little trays. They were in that storage area that was created when the old table came out of there. And I think that's pretty much it. There might be something stored behind the jackknife couch. I'll have to check that out. But Heidi's going to put the covers back over the bench and the couch. Basically, they're just furniture covers. They're like this here. And that'll be pretty much taken care of. Wow. At this point, I've got to get the battery on the tongue, and I think that might pretty much be it. This is coming along nicely. So let me go ahead and get the battery mounted on the tongue, which I still don't know what I'm going to do there. I'm probably just going to put the board on top and strap the battery to the top there. I don't even know if I can do that because it's too tall. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, I know you can just put the battery on the tongue without a box, but I don't think I want to do that. Let's see what I come up with here. All right, so don't judge. I couldn't really do anything else. This is an old ratchet strap that I have had since our Apache pop-up days. What happened was, everything's got a story. You guys know everything's got a story. When we had our 95 F-150, I had only had it for a short time, and we went out tent camping, and then we had another reservation for tent camping up at Pima Tuning, and anyways, I don't even know if we want to get into this story. How can I have a story about a ratchet strap? Isn't that about hilarious? Seriously. I've got a story for everything. So what happened was, let's tell the story, why not? I'm already into it now. So what happened was, because it's a good story, it's pretty funny, I guess. At least it seemed funny to me. Heidi and I was having a yard sale. We also had reservations at Pima Tuning 3 days after the yard sale. So we had gone out tent camping at West Branch. We enjoyed ourselves, and we decided that we were going to make reservations to tent camp up at Pima Tuning. Heidi had made the reservations, and they were inexpensive because we were getting a tent site. I was sitting on the porch as we were selling stuff, and I found an Apache pop-up camper. The guy wanted $400 for it. It wasn't close. It was about an hour and 45 minutes away, and it was getting later in the evening. And I called him up. I left a message, and he called me back on his lunch break. He worked in the evenings. So he had told me, I still have it, and would you like to see it? I said, sure. And he said, well, we can set it up to where you can come out tomorrow morning if you'd like, and you can see it then. I said, that sounds great. I said, I'm very interested. I got all the directions to his house, and then I started looking at Apaches online because I didn't know all the specific models of the Apache campers. When I found out that this one could possibly be a Ramada from the pictures that he showed on Craigslist, or maybe a Roamer, but I thought it was a Ramada, I wanted to call and verify it wasn't a little short one because we had 2 kids at that time. So I went ahead and I called him back and left him a message again and said, hey, I do have a question about it. Can you tell me what model this is? Now, he had already got off work at this point and apparently had been out at the bar or something. And he said, yeah, he says, I have the title actually in my wallet. He goes, let me get it out. And he says, it says Apache Ram. I said, well, great, that's Ramada. I said, it's, you know, Rome, of course, would be something else. So he said, yeah, he says, I've got a couple guys that are coming tomorrow morning to take a look at that thing. I said, yeah, I'm one of them. I talked to you earlier. And he goes, no, I'm having some guys that'll be coming earlier. I said, now, wait a minute, wasn't I the first call? And he said, yeah, you called first. I said, well, why do I have to, be number 3 or number 4? I should be number 1, right? And he goes, well, I was going to hold it. He says, but sure, if you want to come out, you can even come out and look at it tonight. It had been dark for already about 15 minutes. And I said, I'll absolutely come out, no problem. I had a little Escort station wagon, and got good gas mileage, and I thought, you know what, I'll hop in this little car, I'll drive out there, I want to take a look at it, I got money in my pocket, let's see what happens. He said, listen, I'm at the bar though, and he says, I've been drinking. He says, why don't you meet me out at my house? He goes, and then you're going to have to give me a ride out to the campsite. I said, okay, I can do that, no problem. So I told Heidi, I said, hey, I'm checking out of here. And she goes, well, if you buy that thing, we're not going to be taking it camping. And I said, no problem. I said, I understand. This was on a Friday night, and our reservations wasn't until like Wednesday. Maybe it was even Thursday. So I went ahead and drove out there, picked the guy up, drove about 10 minutes to find this campground, and I'm walking into this RV. And now we had already been looking at a lot of used RVs, project RVs. And when I walked into this thing, I was like, man, holy cow, this is nice. I mean, for $400, this thing is really nice. The tires look good. Everything was okay, except the fiberglass was cracked in the back. I'm not going to get into too much of the details of the RV, as you guys are probably already bored of this story. However, I told him, hey, I'll give you money down right now. We can do this deal tomorrow morning. I'll come back. We'll get the title changed over. Everything will be done. He says, okay, sounds good. So I went ahead and I gave him the money. I paid for it. He gave me a bill of sale, said he received the money for the Ramada. We got some serial numbers off of it so we can make sure we're talking about the same thing. And he was telling me that he was getting a divorce and he had to get the camper out of the campground because the dues were getting ready to start up again. This was kind of in the off season, sort of. It was basically about April or May, but they collected their dues kind of late. I think the campground opened late. So anyways, I drove out the next morning. I picked him up. He said, oh my God, he says, I cannot believe how many people's interested in this RV. I said, yeah. And he says, I have had like 10 calls. And he says, since I made that deal with you, I've had quite a few calls. And I said, I understand. I said that, it's a good deal. I that's why I wanted to buy it. I said, I wanted this RV. So I hooked up to our truck, towing this thing. I drove, I don't know how far, and realized that there was something dragging here. He had the cover on the refrigerator upside down and it flopped open. So I fixed that on the side of the road. And then I drove straight to a Napa store because I had no brake lights or anything on the back of this thing. It had a flat 4 that was wired into it, and I had a 7-pin on the truck that was kind of working, kind of not working, because it was original to what the truck had when I got it, and it was in pretty bad shape. So anyways, I went to a Napa store, I rigged up some lights, and I was towing it home. Now, on the way home, I was trucking along at a pretty good pace because I didn't know very much about towing RVs for the most part. And the thing was kind of bouncing a little bit behind. And I didn't think anything about it. I thought, well, I don't have any kind of weight distribution bars. And so this thing probably had about 275-pound tongue weight somewhere in there. I don't know exactly how much. But anyways, it was kind of bouncing down the street a little bit. Got back here. Of course, the yard sale's full blown. We got people everywhere. I actually drove the RV. Let me show you. When it gets really dry in the summer, this becomes pretty firm. Anyways, I drove off over here, and I drove through the yard this way, and I parked it behind the turnaround because we had all kinds of cars here for the yard sale, in the driveway and such. Of course, Heidi reiterated, hey, we're not taking that camping at Pima Tuning. I said, that's fine. I don't have tags for it. We don't have insurance. The lights are rigged up. I understand. So the yard sale's over with, and we're loading up the back of the truck with the tent and our cooker, our grill, and our bicycles, and our mopeds, and our charcoal, and our firewood, and our chairs, our outdoor chairs, and our 2 5-day coolers, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm loading all this up in the truck, And when I'm just about completely done loading, I'm climbing out of the truck, and the truck made a squeak noise underneath. And I never heard it make that noise before. I'm like, what was that? So I kind of sat on the tailgate and I bounced up and down, and the truck was making this weird squeaking noise. So I went ahead and climbed underneath, only to come to find out that on our way home, the spring on the left-hand side, the spring perch, which the old Fords were known for this, had busted and went up into the bed of the truck, and actually had come through the bed liner to some extent, the bed rug, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even see it. And I told Heidi, we've got a problem. So she said, what's the problem? So I had her come out and I looked. She goes, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know. I said, because it takes me about 2.5 hours to change these spring perches for me to knock out the rivets and, put it all. And I said, even now, I don't even know if we could find it, at the dealer at this point, because back then you could only buy them at dealers. Now you can get them at auto parts stores, but back then only at dealers. She goes, well, I'm not canceling my reservation. So basically I jacked the truck up, and when I jacked it up, I got the spring perch lined up in such a way that I could put ratchet straps on the spring perch and ratchet it down to hold it in position. Now, that sounds real flaky, right? Not a big deal. If it was to break again, it's just that side of the truck would dip and actually sit real low, but it wasn't terribly unsafe. I mean, and we weren't going, but maybe 50 miles an hour at the most for the whole trip. And of course, we weren't pulling a trailer, we just had stuff in the back. So we went ahead and drove all the way up to Pima Tuning, and I got into the campsite. We unloaded the tent, we unloaded the mopeds, we unloaded a lot of stuff of the RV so that we could go get another load of firewood, because we knew we weren't going to have enough firewood, and we saw some on the way in for sale. So we left the campground, and whenever I passed where the firewood was, I wanted to back into their driveway, and when I stopped and went to put it in reverse, the axle kind of shifted in the back because that spring perch was only supported by ratchet straps, wrapped around it, and it ripped the ratchet straps. So one ratchet strap was still holding it out of 4. I had them all rigged up in there. And we loaded up with firewood. We went back to the campground, and prior to getting to the campground, we stopped at an auto parts store and we bought 4 ratchet straps, right? This is the whole circle of the story. Back to that red ratchet strap. We bought 4 ratchet straps, and I secured it in the parking lot, or in our campsite parking spot, and went ahead and reinstalled 4 more new ratchet straps. And we camped, we did everything that we wanted to, and it was about 5 days or 6 days that we were there total. And on our way home, after we loaded up and everything, I took it real easy. I came back, got into the driveway, and that was the only ratchet strap that survived. The other 3 out of the 4, they also had ripped during the trip because of the metal, the way it was sharp edged and the way it was being supported. So it's kind of sad seeing that ratchet strap go. I've had it all these years. I mean, this is going back at least 9 years. So very, very funny. It's just crazy. So that's the story of the ratchet strap. So let's go back to this whole deal. The battery that used to be in the bed of my truck, and I used for the winch that was in the back of the old truck, which I'm not utilizing anymore. That's the battery that's in there. So we're back to 12 volt power. The RV's fine inside. I checked the battery, and it's at 12 volts with no load on it. With a load, such as the blower motor for the furnace, the blower motor over the hood, basically, for the oven. If I have those things on with the RV unplugged and this LED light, then the voltage on the voltage meter drops down to about 12.4. So, and it's dropping the whole time. I'm kind of showing you this meter here that I've got. Not a big deal. That's about right. That's the way a single one, usually ran. So we're in business. As it stands right now, As far as the RV is concerned, we're good. We're basically needing to clean it up, empty all our stuff out of it, and I can't think of anything else that I need to do other than wash it and maybe wax it.
So I'm back inside, and I'm going to sign off because that was a long video. I'm editing it now, and I see it's very long. It's over 25 minutes. So, as always, guys, we hope to see you out there. Bye.